A very warm welcome to the second panel of EuroPCom 2024. My name is Silke Tönsov and I'm head of unit in the European Committee of the Regions in the Directorate for Communication. I will moderate this second session, and we have a great global panel now with speakers from India, from Finland and from the US. We heard from Anne Nové in the video just now. ChatGPT took most of us by surprise, and we seem to be very bad at training people for the digital world. And now AI is everywhere, and it is at the center of all debates. Some say it is using up all oxygen and certainly a lot of energy, speaking of natural resources. When you registered, we asked you a number of questions. Around 1,900 participants registered, and we asked you about your challenges and concerns. And privacy and data security faced very high among your concerns with regard to the use of AI in public communication. Bias and fairness were following. So what we want to do is, in this session, we want to decenter the tools, and we would like to focus on these concerns when it comes to outreach and communication with and on AI. Before we start the round with the panel, I have to warn you, at 12 o'clock there will be an alarm. This is not connected to the content of the conference, but we couldn't stop it. So please, it's a test alarm. And now I would like to come to our first speaker, Sasha John. She is researcher, writer, and public engagement manager from the Digital Futures Lab in India. And her work centers on responsible AI in critical social sectors in India. Sasha, thank you for being with us today. There are a lot of experience in the public space in India. Can you tell us more about it?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Glad to be joining you all the way from the southern coastal state of Goa in India. It seems like worlds away from where all of you are sitting, but I think there's a lot that we have researched in the context of India that can be made applicable to the environments in which all of you work. The technology is more or less the same everywhere. It's how we make it relevant and beneficial for where we are. Look, the incorporation of AI requires careful consideration of context, specific use case, target end user, and risk mitigation to ensure that it fosters trust, upholds transparency, and addresses the diverse needs of as many communities. I think with public communication, the stakes are high. This isn't like a commercial enterprise attempting to address the needs of a specific target consumer base. AI applications in public communication are being implemented to address the needs and observe the rights of an entire citizenry. So the room for error and mistakes is and should be low. I'm sure we'll go into some use cases for AI in public communication during the discussion. So I'll use my opening sort of to set the stage for how we should consider approaching developing these interventions and what can be kind of translated from the social sector space in India. What we're seeing in India specifically is a huge uptick in social impact organizations incorporating AI, especially large language models, in interventions for development and systemic socioeconomic challenges in sectors like healthcare, education, and agriculture. And that might seem quite removed from the topic of discussion today, but my thinking is that if we build technology for the most marginalized, keeping their limitations and needs and asks in mind, we then are able to build better for everyone else. So what I will attempt to do the remaining time that I have is quickly summarize these learnings into some key considerations for AI in effective public communication. One, be specific with the use case. The stakes are too high to risk having an all-doing, all-knowing AI intervention that does many things very okay only some of the time. If it's providing information on welfare schemes at this juncture, what we have seen with AI's capabilities or lack rather, that's all it should be trained to do and shouldn't go beyond that sort of use case, right? Two, meet your end user at their digital capacities. Not all citizens or constituents are the same. There will be need to make tweaks and adaptations to get the same quality of service and information to different kinds of users, and for them to be able to offer that information as well. So thinking of different modalities like voice, text, and image for input and output as well. assume that bias is inevitable. There's no amount of careful pre-processing of data or building interdisciplinary teams within that will mitigate every instance of bias. So the risk always exists, and your intervention should be set up in a way that can handle the risk of these harmful outcomes at any given stage. 4 goes without saying, always have a human in the loop. I think sometimes we put a little bit too much credit to what AI can do, but it's really important that if we are deploying these interventions in really high risk sectors, that we have someone or many people kind of along the sort of user journey to support in case things get out of hand. Like we heard in the previous panel, 5 is to localize, and localize again. Tone, language, mode of output, cultural and social anecdotes that work for one community will not necessarily track in another. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Number 6, automate what makes sense to automate, but do not presume that faster is equal to better. Open public dialogue is slow and challenging and nuanced and is the core of what public communication is. But that's what makes it democratic, and that's what makes people feel seen and heard. And so we shouldn't code out empathy and feeling like part of a collective when building these interventions and deploying them. Lastly, acknowledge that your end user or the citizen or the person receiving the information or engaging with the intervention may not engage with it in the intended way, but that there are some hidden gems of insight and learning from these unintended engagements that can inform policy, or at the very least, inform the future sort of interventions in public communication. I went through a laundry list of things, and I'm happy to elaborate on them during the discussion, but I think that's what we can take away from what we're seeing in the critical sort of social sector space in India and translate to a public communication space in Europe, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sasha, and I'm sure we'll come back to some of the conditions and the risks you were mentioning. Our next speaker is Thomas Lehtinen. He is head of data in the Data and Emerging Technology Digitalization Unit of the City of Helsinki. And the City of Helsinki has an impressive list and many initiatives involving AI. There is a list on the website in English. Thomas, how does the city use AI in its communication with the citizens?
Well, hello everybody, and thanks for inviting me for this panel discussion. And I think that's a very good question. And in Helsinki, the use of AI in public services has gained significant attention and raised questions among our residents. And this is natural as AI is becoming more visible part of the daily life and has a substantial impact on functioning of the city. So the increasing use of AI has also changed the role of communication. We need to ensure that the residents understand how AI works, that they perceive it to see it as a safe and beneficial. So the growing adoption of AI doesn't just mean introducing new technologies in the services. It requires fresh approach to communication. So we have realized that emphasizing the transparency, trust, inclusion is very critical. So the residents have the right to know how AI affects their lives and what grounds its use is justified. So one of our most important tool for promoting transparency and inclusion is our AI register, which you mentioned. It has been in use in the city of Helsinki some time now. So the register is an open platform where anyone can explore the city's AI systems. It provides information about how these systems operate and how the logic behind their decisions and their impact. So residents can also give feedback, which help us to develop the services even more user-centered. And this is not It isn't a technical solution. It's a way to strengthen residents' trust and participation in the city's operation. And in adopting AI, we are committed in the following 8 principles in the city of Helsinki. These include transparency, explainability, and data privacy. In practice, this means that every AI system has an assigned personable party, and its operations can be intervened in if it's necessary. Explainability is very crucial. We strive to ensure that the logic behind the algorithms is understandable even to non-experts, so that the residents can evaluate the impact of AI. And also one of the most like the central ethical principles is human centricity. So we always try to develop the services that are first and foremost for the people. Like the AI is just simply a tool for delivering better services. And this philosophy is very important and evident that how we implement the AI in the customer services. And a good example how we use AI in everyday communication with the residents is through the chatbots. For example, in Helsinki, we have several AI-powered chatbots that serve residents around the clock. For example, our healthcare chatbot is used by 15,000 residents every month to get a quick answer for the questions. So these chatbots can save time both residents and city staff by handling frequently asked questions efficiently. However, these do not replace the humans, but instead they complement the traditional customer service channels. And this ensures that the help is always available, especially in the urgent situation or outside regular office hours. And they can be very inclusive. The support of multiple languages facilitates communication with residents from diverse backgrounds, and additionally they provide an accessible service option for those who cannot use the traditional channels such as phone services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thomas, when we were preparing this conversation, we were speaking about trust and trust in what the city of Helsinki does. You are benefiting actually of a very high level of trust. Can you maybe explain how this is continuously fostered and supported?
Yeah, so it's a funny thing that usually when I'm talking with other European cities, the Finnish cities differ a bit because like the Finnish people have very, very high trust on the government. But again, when we are talking about AI, we try to be like very transparent. But again, people with foreign background, for example, in Finland, they do not have the trust. So we have to and sometimes we try to tell for Finns that what we do with the AI, and people with foreign background, for example, we always tell what the AI do and what it doesn't do. It's a very important as well. And again, people use AI services in the private sector every day, so they can also be very quick to compare it to public services. And again, if there is some kind of problem with Facebook or anything, or some kind of data protection issues, they always ask it, is it possible also in the public sector?
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Darisia Wilkinson. She is assistant professor at the Arizona State University in the Human System Engineering program and is working on fairness, transparency, and justice online. Darisia, thank you very much for being with us so very early. And trust, accountability, and transparency have been keywords already in the discussions. How can we integrate ethical frameworks into public communication when it comes to AI?
Yes, so good morning. I'm happy to be joining, even though it's a bit early on my end. I think I will take a stance that's somewhat similar to what Sasha did and just do a bit of stage setting. So I think it's an important first step or precursor to the development of ethical frameworks, in first defining what it means to be ethical, what it means to be responsible, and thinking deeply about the key values and principles that are absolutely necessary to uphold in public communication. Now, in just a few years, we've witnessed our information environments, the places that we share, gather, and debate information being changed dramatically, forcing us to reflect on how AI can turbocharge productivity for public communicators, but also how AI can turbocharge disinformation that could impact democracy, and how a lack of accountability could actually easily erode public trust. Now, for public communication, it's critical to be proactive with thinking about how the sector defines what principles should shape our information environments, rather than solely reacting to the ways that technology is actually impacting us. So integrating ethical principles like fairness, trust, accountability, and transparency into public communication requires deliberate planning, robust implementation, and continuous evaluation. Now, while there has indeed been some progress made by governments, researchers, and industries in shaping different frameworks, more work is actually needed to turn these frameworks into actionable guidelines and standards. So as the moderator would have adequately said, ChatGPT did take us a bit by surprise. So then in the last 2 years of generative AI use, we've seen several cases of concerning behavior. And this emergence of problematic and emergent behavior definitely highlights the needs and different considerations that should be at the top of mind when developing a lot of these more actionable guidelines. And I'll go through a couple. So for example, thinking about transparency and trust, these are the cornerstones for public communication, and there should be ground truth about the minimum expectations about disclosures for how and when generative AI is used, and what data is actually being collected to drive those models. However, we should also recognize new opportunities that AI allows and think about how this should shape new standards for fairness and inclusion. For instance, perhaps we should now expect new norms around how more multilingual AI-generated announcements could be used to ensure more equal access to information. And lastly, organizations should have clear protocols and pathways for accountability to address errors and harms caused by AI-generated content, including more feedback mechanisms for the public. So by weaving together some of these principles, either for fairness, trust, accountability, or transparency into every stage of public communication, we create systems that are not only efficient, but also ethical and inclusive. The AI and generative tools should not just communicate to the public, but work for the public, reflecting the shared values of society. So in the end, ethical frameworks can be a bridge that connects technology with human-centered communication. And technology shapes our future, but ethics ensures that it serves humanity.
Thank you very much, Daricia. AI tools that work for the public. That is, I think that is a very good point, which we certainly will pick up later in the discussion. But now it's time, and I would like to ask the audience again through Slido. We would like to gather your views on the question, if you could use AI for one specific task in public communication, what would it be? Let's take some time. Please take out your phones. Fight the disinformation, disinformation again, create content, social listening, billboarding, audience segmentation, a lot of very diverse tasks here. gathering data, data collection, translation, create contents are coming up very, very strong. Okay. Thanks. I think we can close now. It's a very comprehensive view we have gathered. And I would like to ask you actually a second question. Looking at key considerations for implementing AI technologies. What should be key considerations for implementing AI technologies? And there we gave you a choice, so it's a multiple choice question, but you can also put in other, I understand from my colleagues. So if you want to, if we didn't capture everything, feel free to type in your concern. Data privacy, very much ahead, and transparency. Other? No. So, what should be the key consideration for implementing? Transparency, ethical consideration, accessibility, bias. I think we can close now. Transparency and data privacy fare very, very highly. And I would like to turn now back to the floor, actually to the audience. And we have one discussant from the audience, Mr. Emil Bock, the mayor of Cluj-Napoca, and COR rapporteur on ethical artificial intelligence. Mr. Bock.
Thank you so much for the invitation, and congratulations to the panelists for their excellent input so far. In the previous panel, Elena mentioned how powerful are these new instruments of artificial intelligence. And I'll give you an example from Romania. Maybe you have heard about the presidential elections. And we have now the second round of the elections next Sunday. And in the previous round, a candidate, which was almost no one, won the very first round with 23% of the votes without participating in any rally, any public debate, any TV show, any contact with the people, no contact, no shaking one hand of any citizen in this country. And he won using two powerful instruments. One, social media, especially TikTok, and the second one, the tools of artificial intelligence, bots, trolls, and multiplying the algorithm. He took the negative emotion of the citizens, which are unpleasant with different issues, and using the bots, the trolls, and all the AI instruments to multiply in such a huge amount that he won the election. And you never know that on Sunday he might win even the presidency. So, dear colleagues, it's a very serious issue. Artificial intelligence is good, a lot of benefits for health, for healthcare, for other topics, but can be used also to influence the behavior of the people. And if you change the political decisions, that would be very, very strange. Because this guy is pro-Russian orientated, it's a sympathy with sovereignist approach, anti-NATO, anti-European Union, and he didn't have any contact with the people. So maybe in the future we may vote a robot if we are following the same pattern. And the robot will win the presidency or some kind of jobs, a mayor or something like that. Because the power of social media used together with artificial intelligence tools, it's amazing. That's about Romania so far. So we are looking forward for Sunday to keep the... anyway, don't be afraid. In the parliament, the European forces have 60%, so even the president might be one. In the parliament, it's safe, pro-European. But I just mentioned the influence of the artificial intelligence. The second element, from my experience as a mayor, communication to the people is completely different than communication with the people. and Sasha already mentioned before. And here, communication with the people, connection is the key and vital, but connection with authenticity. Authenticity means trust. And because when you ask someone, where have you been born? He's telling you a very concrete place. So must be very concrete, authentic. And also to focus on very short message and very accessible to the public. Otherwise, people now with the social media, they do not have time to read in this, you need some kind of media diet in the end, but they don't have time. So short and very accessible. And last but not least, from my experience, use stories. As many stories in order to send your message. If you put it in a very old-fashioned way, it's not going to manage it. But if you shape in a storytelling, I think it's better. That's my experience. I do not know if it's available for all, but from my experience. Now, when I was working on the opinion on artificial intelligence, and I have 3 short recommendations. First, combine artificial intelligence capabilities with human judgment to maintain quality, authenticity in communication. Sasha already mentioned exactly about authenticity, how important it's to keep the human judgment, the human touch. Do not lose the human touch on using the artificial intelligence. The second, use artificial intelligence for accessibility. Implement artificial intelligence driven solutions such voice recognition or speech to text to make public communication inclusive. This is one of the positive advantages of AI tools. And last but not least, invest in training. We need to invest to educate our communicators how to effectively use artificial intelligence tools and interpret their outputs to maximize the benefits. We have to learn day by day, like democracy, it's like biking every day. In this field of using AI, in the field of communication, we have to pedal every day on the bike in order to learn better. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we have now a number of questions from the floor. There's a question to Thomas and Sasha. How can you develop AI critical literacy in an environment which already shows digital gaps for many people? Sasha, would you like to start?
Yeah, happy to. I think the point around critical AI literacy is an interesting one, especially when you are working in an environment where there's varying levels of digital literacy. I can speak from the Indian context. A lot of the times in the critical social sectors, you're engaging with end users that are just about learning how to use WhatsApp, who have a very limited imagination for what technology can or cannot do, let alone what AI can or cannot do. So how do you meet these people where their imagination is to explain this really complex technology? There's no one size fits all. What we have seen that has worked, or what we have seen that people are attempting to do in India, is to use the imagination of existing sort of apps to kind of explain what AI is or isn't, right? Like explaining to them, like, you know, how your Instagram works, you get content based on what you like that is powered by a certain algorithm that is able to mark what it is that you're interested in, what it is that you're watching, etc. So using something that's already quite familiar to then give them a mental model for how to think about AI. Something else that's really important to critical AI literacy is the critical part, right? The whole point of making people more informed about AI is not so that they just know what AI is or know when it's being used or know that the chatbot that they're engaging with is not, there's not a human sitting behind there, but it's like a machine that's giving them answers. It's to also equip them with the mental framework to be able to question what it is that they're getting from this AI intervention, right? It's not just the matter of like, I know this is right or wrong. It's also to be able to equip them with the mental framework to be like, hey, maybe I don't want to engage with this AI intervention for my information. And there's other avenues of information or service that I can go to be able to get the same information. Or I would prefer a more human touch and I don't want to be getting my information from a chatbot. So when we think of AI literacy, it's not just thinking about informing the end user about what AI is or isn't and when to flag when they are using one, but it's also to equip them with a way to think about how to engage with AI and how to push back and how to even seek out alternatives if the AI isn't working for them. But I will let Thomas take the rest of it.
Thank you. Thomas, please.
Yeah, I think the inclusivity and AI literacy are the key to ensuring that the AI serves everyone in our community. In Helsinki, we approach inclusivity in AI efforts through like two main strategies, like ensuring access and building understanding. First, we make our AI solutions accessible to all residents by addressing, for example, practical barriers. And additionally, the public events, for example, our new AI and human rights discussions, they provide accessible forums for our residents to engage with AI-related topics and share their perspectives. And second, we recognize that the AI literacy is essential for meaningful participation. So this means that ensuring that both city employees and residents have the tools to understand like how AI works and how it affects their lives. For employees, we have organized extensive training programs focused on practical AI use, ethical considerations, and communication. For residents, we emphasize transparency through like the initiatives like the AI register, which allows them to explore the AI systems. What is needed to enhance like the AI literacy further is targeted education and continuous dialogue. So this includes offering workshops tailored to different resident groups, creating simplified resources that explain AI concepts and expanding the opportunities for public involvement in shaping AI systems. And by focusing on these areas, we aim to create like some kind of environment where everyone, not just the expert, can engage with and benefit from AI in a very meaningful way.
Thank you very much. And if you would like to ask a question, please use the Slido Q&A tab and type your question and we'll take it up then. I have a question for Darisia. What role does collaboration between technologists and communicators play in ensuring responsible use of AI?
Yes, of course. So I think collaboration between both technologists and communicators is vital for the responsible use of AI in public communication, as it kind of serves as a bridge between the technical capabilities and ethical and effective messaging. So technologists provide the expertise to develop and refine AI tools, ensuring that they are efficient, scalable, and capable of actually delivering accurate output. However, public communicators bring an understanding of the audience's needs, cultural sensitivities, and the ethical implications of message delivery. So ensuring that the technology actually serves the public's best interests. For example, let's say if you have a government that's using AI to generate emergency alerts to benefit, from technologists, technologists could use these to actually optimize the system's speed and accuracy, but communicators would actually shape that message to ensure that it's clear, to ensure that it's actionable and actually culturally appropriate. So without this partnership, there's a risk of deploying tools that are either technically sound but ineffective in real world context or ethically misaligned with public values. So this collaboration actually allows and promotes accountability. So by working together, technologists and communicators can establish feedback loops to audit AI outputs, address errors, and continuously refine systems based on real-world performance and public feedback.
Thank you. I have another question here, and I think it's for the whole panel. What new challenges do you foresee as AI-driven tools become more advanced, and how should frameworks evolve to address these? Sasha, please first.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to think of something succinct to say to something like that. I think there are a lot of challenges, but I think this one that's really sticking out the most that we have seen as we've been looking at the social sector in India, and as we've been seeing the way that specifically now generative AI has kind of taken everyone's imagination by storm with the sort of interventions that they're putting out. Everyone wants to build a chatbot. It's the new rage, and everyone wants to get information out via a chatbot. But I think an increasing challenge that we're going to see in the future is a lot of the same thing. What we're seeing in India, specifically in sectors like healthcare, education, and agriculture, is variations of the same kind of chatbot, right? Which is not to say that it's not useful in its own way, but we have to think about how much all of these similar interventions are really moving the needle towards any sort of, transformative or systemic change if everyone's kind of doing a little bit of the same thing, right? So the way that this tracks back to, I think, the sort of, this how should larger frameworks around responsible AI or ethical AI evolve to address this particular challenge. This might be a little bit, I guess, controversial or a little bit like, not to say in a room where you're talking about AI, but part of your framework should be really thinking about if AI is the best solution for the sort of challenge that you are trying to address. Something that was said in a workshop that we recently hosted by one of the participants was like, sometimes the best AI is no AI. And that's a fair route to take. Right? And so that we don't end up in a situation where within the healthcare system, we have a gazillion chatbots providing frontline healthcare workers the same information, and they have to download these things and keep engaging with it, right? Like, we don't want the similar situation, agriculture, education for teachers to be burdened on top of all of the work that they have to do. So I think our framework should really start with the question of, is AI the right choice to make for the challenge that you are trying to address?
Thank you. Thomas, the new challenges you can foresee with regard to new AI-driven tools or more performance, and the frameworks which should evolve. But also, I think the question Sasha, or the point Sasha made, will we see AI taking over, or will there still be an area where you see there will be no AI entering? Thanks.
I think, like, if I want to something to raise up is like how quick the change can be. Like, when we are talking about the use of automation and AI increasing across all sectors, so we are under constant pressure to implement AI within the organization, but also externally. Like, the market is filled with vendors seeking reference customers at any cost, and the sales and marketing can be very aggressive. So when we have just finished like our ethical principle of the use of AI, then came generative AI, which challenged almost every one of the principles. So we have to bring up new guidelines for the use of generative AI very quickly. So our guidelines for use of generative AI in the city of Helsinki, they are divided to 3 key areas. First of all is the expert use. We try to ensure that the users understand the logic and limitation of the generative AI. This means that the AI is mainly used for internal purposes without involving personal data or any confidential information. Second is the customer interfaces. So we want to avoid automated decision making. So each response is reviewed, and the customer service representative takes personal responsibility for the answer she or he provides. So it's very crucial that the customer service people have sufficient time to consider and ensure the impartiality of the responses. And the third is when generative AI is used directly by the customers, we try to inform the users about the presence of automation and also provide them the access to human channel if needed. And this is the next is a very big problem with the generative AI. In the Finnish law, it's that the responses must be always reviewed afterward if necessary and prepare for potential misuse of AI. So that's very, very hard, and it shows like how like generative AI challenges the guidelines that we have already built for AI. And the change can be like in 1 month we have to start using generative AI.
Thank you. Darisia, please.
Yes, I think I'll actually echo some points both from Thomas and Sasha. So I think an important aspect that should be considered is human capacity and the ability to actually respond. I think it's incredibly important that we're all here in this room and we're all very passionate about these topics and actually investigating how things are happening on the ground and how it impacts people and how we should effectively address some of these challenges. But there still needs to be more people who are doing this and more people who are exploring how it kind of manifests in different contexts, because people would be one aspect of it. Then there are also different challenges that would be technical that makes it complicated and makes the problem space actually incredibly socio-technical. So some of the challenges that are top of mind involve like the increasing complexity and the opacity of AI systems, particularly when it comes to generative AI. So this creates more challenges and makes it even murkier when we originally thought of like black box problems. So now we have solutions where we have no idea what these generative AI systems are actually trained on. So any frameworks that are actually addressing these problems, they will need to be mandated to be more robust and actually actionable, especially when it comes to transparency mechanisms. I think it's not enough to just tell people like, hey, we identify that you've been harmed. Like, there needs to be some action to actually back that up. Another key challenge would be related to deep personalization. So this is where AI now is being used to tailor messages that are so incredibly precise that it risks infringing on people's privacy or manipulating individuals based on their behavioral data. So any future frameworks should address ethical personalization, emphasizing consent and setting clear boundaries on data usage.
Thank you very much. We will have to come to a conclusion of this panel because, as it was said before, the online framework, the digital framework sets out very, very strict limitations here. And I would like to ask each of the speakers 1 minute concluding statement. And starting with Sasha, please.
Great. I think I'll start with my most important point in case I run out of time. But I think something that we've kind of gathered from here and from the statement that I made and from the remarks made by people on this panel is that AI should not be approached as the silver bullet to issues in whichever sector that we're trying to implement it in, specifically public communication, but rather it should be approached as potentially one of many ways in which this communication can be made better. Like I said, something that we've heard before in previous conversations is that sometimes no AI is the best AI. And I think that mental model is actually really useful in kind of resulting in responsible and equitable AI interventions for public communication.
Thomas, your last words, please.
Yeah, something I like to say is that we always must know how to approach AI with critical mindset also. So AI is more than just a tool. It can be an opportunity to enhance services, build trust, ensure inclusivity in communities, but we need to approach the AI with the focus on transparency, ethical use, and active engagement with the residents so that we ensure that no one is left behind. And looking ahead, like we must address challenges like environmental impact and deepen AI literacies so that everyone, not just the expert, can understand and benefit from these technologies. And AI should always serve people, not the other way around. And it's up to all us to ensure that it remains responsible and human-centric part of our society.
And Darisia, please.
Yes, I think as we reflect on the discussions from today, I think it's clear that automated and especially generative tools have the potential to revolutionize public communication, making it more efficient, personalized, and impactful. However, with great potential comes great responsibility. And the adoption of these tools, they must be guided by ethical frameworks that make sense and are guided by definitions that would help to create environments that are actually beneficial for the public. So I think as we leave today's discussion, let's remember that the future of communication isn't just about automation or algorithms, it's about people. Our shared goal should be to harness technology to connect, inform, and empower communities responsibly. So hopefully together we can create a future where innovation and ethics go hand in hand, ensuring that tools that we build today support the society that we envision for tomorrow. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to conclude now. We heard with great potential comes also great responsibility, and we've certainly covered only a part of the very important aspects. We saw that we need a shared understanding of reality where no one is left behind to participate in society and in democracy, as we saw. Public communication is only one element of that, and another one is media. And we can less and less expect that social media companies act as good faith gatekeepers, looking at the dismantling of fact-checking and what we see around us. So the citizens are not just receivers of our messages, their capacity to process this reality is crucial. We tackled the aspect of AI literacy in this panel. Fairness, access, and preparedness are some of the aspects we discussed. If you would like to look at some of the aspects of the discussions today, Andrew was already mentioning it, we will send out a link to the tool we'll be using to make sense of the discussions today, where you can also ask specific questions. As a pilot, please let us know how this works for you, and you'll get that in about a week, Panoramic AI, EuroPCom Panoramic AI. So also we are innovating here. We hopefully we are innovating. With that, I would like to thank all the speakers and the discussants for their contributions, all of you who have entered your questions. And I would like to hand over to the next panel. And before that, we will see a short video pill again. Thank you very much.